He's right there.
This episode of the Bucktails podcast is brought to you by Pistol Creek and Trip Sporting Goods.
Oh, good blood. All right, that's some good blood here.
Shut up. Yeah! Look at that. Woo! Good deer, babe. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bucktails podcast. This is your host, Eli Self. I've been putting this episode off for a while now. I've fished 2 tournaments since my last recap episode at Sardis, and have not been fishing great, and that's one of the reasons why I, was hesitant or didn't want to talk about how bad we've been doing. So I'm going to dive into that a little bit. The kind of the mental health side of fishing and how confidence and things like that kind of go hand in hand with fishing. So before I get into that, though, I do want to talk about my fishing sponsor since it is a fishing recap episode. Pistol Creek Turkey Calls. It's almost turkey season, so if you need a call, reach out to Pistol Creek. They make pot calls, mouth calls, box calls. There's a trough call they make. I believe we make crow calls too. So reach out to Pistol Creek. Trammell Tire Pros here in Dahlonega. I actually went to these guys this past week to get my truck oil changed, tires rotated, a tune-up, so like spark plugs and whatnot, and then also had a vibration in the front end that they took care of a wheel bearing for me, or a hub bearing. Appalachian Home Loans with Steve Bryant, Ethan Crow, and Country Financial. Part City Auto Parts, Marshall's Auto Parts here in Dahlonega, Georgia, Mountain Man Salon, Dahlonega Chiropractic Life Center, Smoke and Fly Cigars, Gold Rush Spirits, and the Disco Station, Dahlonega Electric, Self and Self, General Contractors, Trip Sporting Goods, Decked Out John Boats, and Anderson Feed and Hardware. And all these are local to Dahlonega for the most part. And I just want to say thank you to these guys for their support for the fishing season and, all that goes into this podcast as well. So to jump into the tournament at Toto Creek, we got 19th out of 20 boats. That is probably, I'll have to look back at my standings over the years, but that's probably my worst finish in my own club ever. Um, I've had some bad days. We've all had those days where we've caught one or two, just had terrible times. But ended up the day we had 2 keepers for just under 3 pounds, and a lot of guys had limits. I mean, people were really catching them this day, and so the whole tournament, kind of how it went. My partner had pre-fished the couple weeks leading up to the event and had been catching limits of 12 to 13 pounds pretty quickly at this certain spot on the lake. It was down near in the Nix Bridge area, and he was targeting suspended bass. So this was back in early to mid February is when this tournament was, and he could pull up in the afternoons and catch a limit in no time. He said, within 30 minutes he'd have a limit. It's like nothing major as far as size. Like we weren't on a 20-pound bag or anything like that crazy, but he had been catching them pretty well. So fast forward to tournament day, we get running straight to this spot, and at Toto Creek we ran probably 2.5 miles one way, and it's electric only. So, my boat setup, I've got 2 24 volts on the back. That tournament, I had 3 actually. So I've got 3 motors. We didn't use one of them on the back on the way down just to make sure we would have enough juice to make it back at the end of the day. And so we ran probably 5, pushing 6 miles total. But that was our, round trip. And we get down to our spot. Immediately we start seeing fish. We're fishing kind of main lake points on this island, and not really targeting, brush or rocks or anything specific. We were just out there looking for fish. And we go throughout this time, and we are getting bit like crazy. We're using live scope. We're getting followed. Um, my partner Tyler had fallen off of a ladder. Actually, I should have let off with this, but my partner Tyler had fallen. A ladder slid out from under him, and he fell from like 10 or 12 feet on the concrete. Broke his wrist, probably bruised some ribs, may have cracked some. I'm not sure, but he was literally in the emergency room the day before, and he went fishing this day with a broken wrist. And we were doing live scope. He was throwing a little finesse swim bait, little like 2.8 Kitech. And if I heard his reel, the drag come out once, I heard it 100 times. I mean, it was so many short strikes, and they were following, and that's kind of how the most of that morning went. And I'm still relatively new to live scope. That was my second tournament ever, fishing behind it, and I've only been out a handful of times, with it other than tournaments, just busy life, things like that. But so still getting used to it, still trying to figure out how long do I stay on these fish? How when do you stay? When do you go? What baits to throw? What do they follow? How do you get them, entice them to bite if they're following it? You know what I mean? And Tyler was getting bites like crazy. I was having follows on the Alabama rig. I ended up hooking one pretty early in the day, and he bit it right at the trolling motor, like right at the front of the boat. So I'm trying to dance around, keep the fish hooked, keep pressure on him. He's right there at the front of the boat. The fish hits the trolling motor and then comes off. So that's kind of how that day went. That was kind of our luck. We ended up picking up two keepers. I picked one up at the very end of the day on an Alabama rig over some brush, barely a keeper. And I forget what Tyler caught his on now. It's been so long. But I believe it was that Kitech, the swim bait deal. He finally got one to bite it. But I bet if we had to count up all the bites we probably had 15 to 20 bites as far as, definite 100% fish were eating the lure, hooked them, doubled up, and then came off. Be it like the one with the trolling motor on the Alabama rig, or Tyler setting the hook, or swinging into a fish with the finesse swim bait. Probably 15 bites on the day, and we had two keepers. And that was hard to watch the weigh in. Of course, I run the tournaments. I'm helping run the scales, things like that. But hard to hard to go through a weigh in when you come back with two. You want to do well, you want to perform, and I'm going to get into some of the psychological things and whatnot that I've been going through from days like that. Because even like at Sardis, my last recap episode, I talked to you guys about the I had stomach issues that day. Everything else was going wrong. We lost some time. I couldn't focus the whole day because I wasn't feeling well at Sardis in January, and we probably had 7 or 8 bites all day, which very minimal bites. It was a tougher tournament across the board. Less 5 fish limits were caught by competitors, but we ended up with a fifth place finish because we had we had 3 good keepers and 1 dink, but had 10 pushing 11 pounds on 4, and had half the bites, but we got a top 5 finish that day. And then at Toto we had 15 bites, double the bites, and got next to last. We didn't get last because a boat left early. So we were literally the lowest, weighing team. So that was that tournament. I mean, we were chasing fish for a large part of that morning, and we probably should have changed a color or changed a cadence or left earlier, quit relying on live scope quite as much. And that's something that's tough. You want to stare at that thing. You can literally watch fish come up and eat it. And you're like, okay, they're going to fire up any minute now. And historically at this spot, my partner had been doing really good, so it's hard to leave. Very hard to leave. So finally, we went shallow for the last hour and a half. It was, too little too late. I was throwing a crankbait, threw an Alabama rig around some brush, and finally caught, like I said, our second keeper. But like literally a buzzer beater. Like as time was, we had minutes to get back. I was like, I know where this one spot is. We stopped. I threw over it, caught one. And that's something that I should have hit more places like that maybe. And it's all hindsight is 2020. But yeah, that was a tough tournament. Uh, the most recent tournament we had was at Thompson Creek. We ended up getting 14th out of 20. We had 4 keepers for just under 8 pounds. And it was another morning where we had a plan. We went, on history from, some pre-fishing. And it didn't pan out. They were, had a few followers that morning and just, it didn't pan out for us that morning. Didn't have many bites at all. And then we probably, mid-morning, it's probably, I think we blasted off at 7. So this is probably a touch after 8, 8:30, something like that. So we've been fishing for an hour, hour and a half. No fish in the boat at all. We're up in this pocket right across from another boat that's fishing with us. Um, Shout out to Matt Worley. And we watched these guys absolutely wreck them. Every dock, they're catching fish. I can see they're skipping a white wacky worm underneath these docks and around these docks. And I'm talking, it seems like every other cast, you hear a splash, they're getting the net. We're looking over there like, dang, they're whacking them. And we're throwing very similar things, soft plastics around docks. And I'm not going to lie, we swapped to, some of the white wacky rigs as well. And we could not get touched. I picked up a shaky head, which is a big confidence bait for me. If I'm not getting bit, I'm gonna throw a shaky head. Throwing all this around docks. We're on the sunlit side. It was a cold front situation. This is on March 11th out of Thompson Creek, and we're on the sunlit side. So I'm thinking this is going to be a good side because the sun hits it first, it warms it up because the water has dropped like drastically. The temperature has up until this tournament, and we could not get a bite on that side. And we talked to Matt and his partner after the event, and they said, yeah, well, they went all the way to the back of that pocket, circled around, fished on the same side that we were on when we were watching them catch those fish earlier, and they said they didn't get any bites on that side. And they went back to that spot they were at earlier, or that side, and were catching them again. So I don't know if it was could have been a steeper versus a shallower bank, or different types of cover, or something along those lines. I should have looked. I need to look back more closely and see. Did the channel swing closer to our side or that side? That kind of thing. But so that was, and they ended up winning. They had almost 18 pounds. They had a great day, fantastic day. So me and Tyler decide, all right, we're not catching anything, not getting bit, doing something wrong. So we end up heading out, leaving, changing locations. We go out to this main lake, little rocky point. There's some docks on it, and at this point, I cut our fish finders off. I've got live scope. I have a Garmin 93 SV Echo map up front, and that's the only graph I have on the boat. But we're getting frustrated. Kind of spinning out. That's kind of where I am mentally in this tournament, especially after Toto Creek didn't do well. My mind is blank as to what to do. Usually, I have, I feel like I have decent ideas for what I like to do, and or I have a spot I want to go to. And I was getting into, spin out mode. I'm like, dang, we're 2 hours in, no fish. What the heck we're going to do? They're not going to bite. Nothing's going to work. I have no confidence in what I want to do. Nothing, have no idea what to do. So I'm like, all right, I cut the graph off. Tyler kind of laughed. He said, "Did you cut the graph off?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Dude, we're not doing anything right. Like, I don't know what's going on." So I'm like, "We're just gonna start chunking and winding, covering water." Like, I'm gonna pick up a crankbait. He picked up a chatterbait. Literally within 5 minutes, he catches a keeper. So bam, we're on the board. Got a keeper in the boat. I'm like, heck yeah, let's keep on going. Going off the bank. Tyler catches one more. So, we're a little bit of momentum, figuring something out at least. Still fishing around docks. We'd fish around docks all morning and hadn't got a keeper. Now we've got two within like 10 minutes. And, keep fishing around. It dies off. We change spots again. We're going around this big kind of a sweeping point, and I hook another one on the crankbait. So then now we've got three, and it's getting later in the day. We're probably midway through, I guess. And so we keep going around through there. We're sitting on three keepers now. Keep going, and then pick up a shaky head and make a long cast beside this dock. It gets a little bit heavy, a little bit mushy, and I set the hook. And this is where I'm going to get into talking about kind of how mental health goes into fishing a little bit. So I set the hook on this fish, and I didn't feel him pick it up. I just felt it get kind of mushy. And if as a fisherman, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You didn't feel like a peck. It's just there's something there. It feels like there's mush, on your bait. So I lean into it. Not a great hook set. Angle is weird. I just didn't get a good. It felt like I did not have a good hook. The whole time I'm fighting this fish, I'm like anxiety ridden. Anxiety sets in that I'm going to lose him, and you know, and come to find out, the fish was hooked like very good, like back of the throat. He ate it. It was a good catch. But I'm literally telling Tyler, I'm like, oh, he's gonna spit it. He's gonna spit it. He's barely hooked. He's barely hooked. But because I could feel the line going across the fish's teeth. And sometimes if you're throwing like a jig head worm or something that has a lot of weight to it, when they do a head shake, sometimes you can feel it rattle, and that's the bait hitting the fish. Um, so I was like, it's gonna come off. Yeah, I set the hook. I'm gonna lose it. It's not gonna get in the boat. That was and is my confidence in fishing right now. I was feeling better because I caught one on a crankbait a few minutes before. I caught this one, got it in the net finally. I'm getting excited. Got two. I've caught two. We're at four, almost to a limit. After the morning, we're like, okay, we're gonna catch one or two again. Have a terrible time. Negative thoughts galore. Right. So going on through the rest of the day, we tried another spot, found some fish on a live scope on that were hanging around some brush, and then the same deal. Like they were following pretty decent, but it was getting late in the day. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna give these fish 15 minutes, see if we can get them to bite anything, and they'd follow some, and then would not commit. So I was afraid that they were crappie or small fish, just they were kind of nipping at it. So we ended up leaving that spot. Hang on one second. So we leave that spot, heading back up the lake. And excuse me, no, at this point we have three keepers. So before that, Tyler caught one on a chatterbait. I caught one on a crankbait, a rock crawler. Caught one on a shaky head. So we're at three fish now. So we head our way back up. On our way back to the lake, or back nearer the ramp, we see a nice kind of a main lake, rocky points and blowdowns, things like that. So Tyler picks up crankbait, and we start chunking and winding down this bank, um, and throwing it up in brush, letting the bait deflect, trying to get that kind of a bite going, reaction bite. And this time of year, those fish usually love that. Um, so then Tyler hooks into a nice one. We get him in the boat. So there's our fourth. Then we go on around this point. We find a good looking brush pile, and there's fish all over it. This is another, lack of confidence example here for you. We were throwing some of the finesse swim baits. I was throwing a shaky head up there, threw an Alabama rig over at a time or two. I ended up settling on the shaky head to throw up there and try to target, feel the brush, throw it into it. And I'm, pulling across limbs, and you can feel it hitting a hard limb. You pop it over, hit a hard limb, pop it over. And then at one point, one of these casts, it gets heavy, and I'm thinking I'm stuck on a limb, and I kind of lean into it pretty hard, and I feel it start moving, and then I feel it let go. I feel like I can tell that a fish got it, let it out of his mouth. So I'm like, wow, this the old saying, hook sets are free. My grandpa would have told me that hook sets are free, and I should have set the hook. But yeah. So 99.9% sure I pulled it out of a fish's mouth. So that could have been number five. Not, no clue how big it was. Could have been a very small fish, but it was one of those that, like, he had it in his mouth. It felt mushy. I leaned into it to check it instead of just setting the hook. And, there you go. Then at this point, it's getting very, very late. So we head back towards the ramp, and we ended up with, I think we had 785 on 4, and we got 14th place out of 20. Almost 18 pounds won it. So overall, I mean, a great day on the lake for the club. A lot of guys caught fish. Um, good tournament, good turnout. I'm, very, very impressed and pleased to have 20 boats. We may have had 19 actually at this Thompson Creek event, but 19 to 20 boats at the first 3 events. I'm tickled. I'm hopefully this momentum carries through as we go to the rest of the year. Keep that attendance up. But so I'm gonna go into more of the mental health side of things. Um, Confidence is huge in fishing, and lately I have been putting a lot of pressure on myself. My wife tells me she's going to beat me with a stick because she can tell that I'm not having fun with it. I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself. I'm irritable about it, those kind of things. And it's, you know, as adults, we get into life and we get more stressors. We're busier. We've got kids. I mean, there's just always something to do, and right now I'm teaching extended day, so I don't have um, a planning period at work right now. I'm working 2 nights a week at night school, so just very, very busy, busy life. My wife's student teaching, so I mean, you're trying to keep family happy, trying to spend time with family, see my grandma, my mom, my dad, my brother. We're trying to see everybody, see our in-laws. I mean, see Casey's family. Just all in all, just busy, busy time. And if I had to describe, my mental health the last year or so, it's certain things will seem insurmountable. It could be something as simple as printing off something or, looking up something for a bill or trying to figure out something from a medical bill, or anything like that that takes a little bit of effort. I'm like, "God," it seems like so much, or like grading tests at school. It just seems like, oh god, it's gonna take forever, and it's gonna take 30 to 45 minutes. I just need to do it, right? So, and then that translates over to, what I'm getting at is with fishing, fishing should be an outlet, right? Fishing should be something that I can go to for a release. Hunting should be something that I can go to for a release. And, there's that's where the dichotomy of it comes in is fishing, happiness in fishing should be you're on the boat. You're with one of your best friends fishing tournaments. You're the tournament director, club president of something that you started when you were 19. Like, and I started this thing to fellowship, to be around people, to fish tournaments, to, create that atmosphere, to compete at a electric only level, right? And that's the essence of it. But, I put a lot of pressure on myself, and it's like I want that pressure to be there, but somewhere along the line, that happiness or that, that idea has been broken or, shifted, however you want to put that. I'm not a psychologist, and I'm not, don't claim to be, but it's like getting back to the basics. Whenever the fish aren't biting, you have to have something to go back to, and usually for me, it's a crankbait or a shaky head, and it's whenever I'm having those bad days on the water and I don't have any confidence in anything. Like if you don't have confidence in a bait or confidence in yourself and you're on the lake, it's going to be a rough time. Like it's because you're not open minded, you're not focused quite as hard as you should be. And that's you don't have a clear or a clean mind, and that's kind of where my fishing here lately is like. If we're on the lake, if I was on the lake right now, 2 hours in a tournament, had zero keepers, the last month or two, my mind would be absolutely blank. You could ask me, "Hey, what do you want to go do?" I don't know. I have no idea. No good ideas. No thinking outside the box or inside the box. I mean, like sometimes it's good to stay inside the box. Pick up a shaky head and throw it. Keep a bait in the water. Just go down the bank, right? And sometimes I try to overcomplicate things way too much. I want to use the live scope, and that's something that has lit the fishing world on fire. And there are people that are very, very good at live scope, like the forward facing sonar. And I'm not there yet with it. I'm getting better. I can see fish, I can see my bait, but and I want to use it as a tool, but not lean on it too much. And that's a whole other topic for another time is live scope itself. But it's just the having all these options when you're on the boat and not letting it spin you out. And that's, something that is, I'm sure it's talked about in podcasts and YouTube and, people, you've heard it before, right? But try not to spin out on the lake. And there are pros that I follow. Um, Gerald Swindle says it has the PMA movement or the PMA, acronym, the positive mental attitude. And if you haven't seen any of those videos that Gerald's put out about that, um, there are some really, really powerful things that have happened because of that. But that's you know, beyond fishing, positive mental attitude. Like I was telling you earlier, things seem insurmountable. Things seem that you can't do them. Having a positive outlook and something that I've drifted from doing a lot here lately too is, praying first, like seeking out an answer from God and seeking out advice and direction, praying for that clear mind and having him right there beside you to help. That's something I haven't done a lot here lately. And it's that positive outlook, looking above, looking to God for prayer, through prayer, and it's important. And it's seeking that kind of an answer. But moving, there's another pro fisherman. I forget which one it is. Maybe Brian knew, but his tagline is hashtag don't suck. And that's, do anything but suck. Don't suck. Just do something better than that. And that's, simple, but is having some kind of a mantra day in, day out. Fishing doesn't matter. Like, if you're having a rough time, you get up, you want to go to work. I'm like, all right, don't suck today. Be good. Do good at what you're doing. Have a clear mind. Keep God close. And it's that constant prayer for me that helps me get me through the day. But yeah, that's kind of the mental health side of things and how it goes hand in hand in fishing. And I'm gonna be having Jeff Nail. He's a guide on Lake Lanier. I'm gonna have him on here the next couple of weeks because he made a post here lately that was talking about sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield. And and that's just the truth. It's gonna happen that way. Sometimes you're gonna be on top of the world and sometimes it's everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And something that my wife reminds me of and I try to remind her sometimes too is those weeks where you are the bug hitting the windshield. Think to yourself, is this going to affect me in 5 years? Usually no. I mean, sometimes it could be a major life changing thing that happened, and by all means, it's okay to freak out. It's okay to have a bad day. But overall, most of the time, if you cannot readily affect it or change it or fix it, and it's not going to affect you in the next 5 years, like 5 years from now, then it probably doesn't matter. I mean, that's just the truth. So that's kind of the mental health side of fishing. And I know I was probably scatterbrained through this, but that's just kind of where I am. This is my podcast and my platform, my outlet, if you will. So thank you guys for listening to my rambling tonight. But I'm looking forward. I'm recording this on March 22nd, and we are heading up to Nashville to stay, or not Nashville, Knoxville, for the Bassmaster Classic to stay Friday night and Saturday night. A little family trip up there. So I'm looking forward to going up there to the expo. I might go to the blast off a day or two and just have some good family time up there. But yeah, overall, kind of recap that. Last couple of tournaments have been tough. Low low self-esteem for fishing, low confidence in what I'm doing, and that's, it's hard to do good with fishing, especially, using it as an outlet. It's hard to do good if you don't think highly of yourself, and that's day in, day out. Anything that you do, you got to have confidence in yourself. Stick your chest out a little bit. Be make have a good day. It's okay to have a good day, and it's also okay to have a bad day. So, I'm telling myself that. But looking forward to the rest of the season fishing wise. We are at Bear Creek on April 15th. So hopefully I can get over there a little bit and look around, see if I can find some more spots. But mostly just go fishing. And that's my goal. I mean, pre-fishing can be great, and it can also be the most terrible thing in the world. So that's my goal moving forward to kind of change my mindset is I'm just going fishing. Tournament, no tournament, I'm just going fishing. I'm gonna keep my confident stuff in my hand and keep rocking. So thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Bucktails Podcast.